Module 4, Checking Over Your Work. In this module, we are going to do the final step of the problem-solving process. And at first glance, it may not seem very important, but it is. We are going to talk about checking over our work. The big reason for checking our work is to make sure we didn't make any mistakes or overlook important information, which is surprisingly easy to do when you are working through a problem. The best way to check over your work is to go back through it from beginning to end and talk about what you did and review each step. This is called self-talk, and it's quick and easy to do. Not everyone does self-talk in the same way, but to do it correctly, you need to include some important steps. This lesson is designed to take you through those steps so that you are comfortable enough to do self-talk on your own. It only takes a few seconds and is certainly much faster than having to go back and fix a bunch of mistakes later. Also, before this video, there is another brief video that provides an example of self-talk. Watch that video before you watch this one. Have you already done it? Great. Let's get started. Here's an example of the objectives of this module, as stated in the module introduction. This lesson focuses on performing self-talk to check over a problem that has been solved. Here is what it looks like. Our original problem was Mary had 8 cupcakes. She gave 3 cupcakes to her friends. How many cupcakes does she have left? The important information is she had 8 cupcakes and gave 3 away. The model is 8 cupcakes with 3 drawn out. The subtraction problem we came up with was 8 minus 3 equals 5. We put 5 in the blank to say Mary had 5 cupcakes left. The self-talk portion is where we go back through. Mary only had 8 cupcakes to begin with and gave 3 away. That means she loses them and will have less cupcakes. The answer I got, 5, which is 3 less than 8. My answer makes sense. Now that you have seen what the objectives look like, let's begin the lesson. We're going to go back through each problem we did in our previous modules and self-talk through it to check our work. In this problem, we know that Susie was bird watching in her backyard. She counted 8 birds first, then 3 more. We put a model of 8 blocks with 3 more blocks. Then we came up with the addition problem, 8 plus 3 equals 11. How can we self-talk through this? Well, we go back and look and check to make sure we did all the things correctly. First, she had 8 birds, and then there were 3 more. Okay, well, more does tell me that I'm going to put things together. My model has 2 groups of things, which means I was putting them together. So that matches the problem. 8 and 3, when I put together, are going to be more than 8. And 11 makes sense because it's only a few more than 8. So my answer of 11 makes sense because I put 2 groups of birds together to get more than what I had separately. Do you understand? Let's try some more. If you'll notice when I'm doing my self-talk, I'm really just going back over the steps very quickly to make sure that the steps I did do were correct, and also to make sure I didn't misread any words, use any of the incorrect numbers, and my models are correct. That's all you're really doing when you're self-checking. Let's try this one. In this problem, we remember that Mark was collecting some rocks. He had 9 rocks in his collection already and found 6 more on a trip. The question and the sentence we wrote was about how many rocks were in his collection altogether. We took the 9 rocks and drew a model for that, then the 6 rocks that he found later and drew a model for that. So now we have 2 groups of rocks. We added those rocks together because it says more rocks that were found, and we want to know how many in his collection altogether. So it does make sense to add. And when I add 9 plus 6, I get 15. I can count my blocks or my drawings to make sure that there are 15 there and double check, which there are. So the answer of 15 makes sense. Depending on the kind of problem you're looking at, your self-talk may sound a little different. But as long as you're taking all the steps necessary to make sure that you didn't make any mistakes, you're on the right track. Let's look at this one. In this problem, we have the middle part of the problem, which is missing. He had 15 cookies to begin with, and he gave some away, and he had 6 left. So we have to think about this. He went from 15 to 6. If what he ended up with is smaller than what he began with, we can assume that what's going on is subtraction. Well, we chose to do subtraction because of that. So that's good. We used the right operation. Let's see what else can help us. 6 is much less than half of 15. So the difference is going to be more than 6 to cover up the difference between 6 and 15. 9 makes sense because it's more than 6 and less than 15. So there's another way of thinking through the correctness of your problem, is by looking at the number you got and making sure it makes sense with what else is in the problem. Is it too high? Is it too low? Or does it fit in with the problem that you did, the operation that you did, and the story in the problem? Next question. Mary and Jack are in the same class, and they're comparing the books they read. Mary read 7, and Jack read 5. How many more books did Mary read than Jack? This is the problem we've talked about a lot in that comparing problem. So it's really important that you check your work this time, because a lot of times people will make mistakes and only pick one of the numbers instead of actually comparing the numbers. But we've learned that what we're doing is looking for the difference in the books that they read, or whatever's being compared. So that means that my answer has to be between not between, but it has to be the difference, is what I'm trying to say. It has to be the difference between the books that she read and the books that he read, or whatever you're comparing, because you're trying to eliminate what's the same about them. Well, the same books that Mary and Jack read would be 5. Each of them read at least 5 books. But then what was left was the 2 books that Mary read that Jack didn't read. So the difference, 7 minus 5 equals 2, makes sense. If my answer was 7 or 5, that would have been a red flag that I did something wrong. Now you try. Here's the problem we did earlier, and you've already solved and drawn a model for. Now I want you to practice self-talking your way through it, just like I've been doing, to see if your answer makes sense. The problem was Tom counted 8 blocks on the floor of his room. Then he found 4 more under his bed. He put all the blocks away. How many blocks did Tom put away? I'm going to wait a moment and let you pause the video while you talk over the problem yourself. When we come back, I'm going to talk through it and you can see how your talk compares to my talk. It won't be exactly the same, but as long as we have the same elements, that's what we're looking for. Pause the video now and talk your way through this problem. Press play when you're done. All done? Good job. Let's see how close your self-talk is to mine. We are looking for the number of blocks that Tom put away because it says he put all the blocks away, which means I need to find every block that Tom found and put them together. He found 8 on the floor and 4 under his bed. That's 2 groups of blocks that he had to put away. So I'm going to put away the 8, then put away the 4, which means I'm putting them together, which means I'm adding. Well, I did add, so that makes sense. 8 and 4 more is 12, and I can count the blocks in my model to make sure that it's 12. And then I can say, well, I know that my answer makes sense. I chose the right operation, addition, and I counted my blocks to make sure I had the right number. This problem makes sense. Did your self-talk sound like my self-talk? If it's pretty close, you did a good job. Let's move on to the next one. Jan had 12 new pencils. She gave a few to her friend. Now she has 8 pencils. How many pencils did she give to her friend? Now is the time again where you're going to pause the video and talk your way through this problem and make sure it makes sense to you. When you're done talking through it, press play and we'll go through it together. Okay then, let's see. Jan had 12 new pencils at first. She gave some away, but we don't know how many. But we do know how many she had left. 8 is smaller than 12, and that's what she ended up with, which means there was subtraction because she lost pencils to get to the new number of 8. So I know I'm going to subtract. If I subtract the 8, which I know she has left, from the 12, which I know she had, that will give me the difference of what she gave away. So my model, I circled the 8 she had left, so I could clearly see the ones that she gave away. My subtraction problem, 12 minus 8, matches the model and matches the problem. 4 makes sense because I know 8 plus 4 equals 12. So 12 minus 8 would be equal to 4. My problem makes sense. Did your self-talk sound like my self-talk? As long as it has the same elements of where you went back through the problem, looked over your model, and checked your math, then you're on the right track. Let's keep going. John had 8 fish in his tank at home. For his birthday, he was given 3 new fish. After adding them to his tank, how many fish does he have now? Now's the time for you to pause the video, go back through it, and self-talk your way. When you've decided that you're finished checking, press play and we'll go over it together. Okay then, here we go. He had 8 fish. He gets 3 new fish. That means he's not losing any, but he's adding to what he already has. So that means the answer is going to be more than 8 because we're adding to it. And then the other hint in the problem, it tells us adding them to his tank. So we can definitely be sure that this problem is going to be addition. I've had the 8 blocks for the fish he originally had and the 3 blocks for the fish he was given. When I count them all up, I get 11. 8 plus 3 equals 11. 11 is more than 8, and it makes sense compared to our picture. So I can be pretty sure that 11 is the correct answer. Did your self-talk sound like my self-talk? If it was pretty close, you're on the right track. Let's do the last one. Sam and Todd got new crayons. Sam had a box of 12 crayons. Todd had a box of 8 crayons. How many more crayons does Sam have than Todd? Let's see, my big key word in this is what? How many more? Don't forget that when you do your self-talk. Pause the video now and go through the problem, self-talking and checking. When you're ready to come back, press play. All ready? Good job. Let's do it. As I hinted before I let you pause the video, we have to look at those words, how many more. That gives us a big hint that we're supposed to be comparing. So this isn't just any addition or subtraction problem, it is a comparing problem, which we have learned that comparing is subtraction usually. We lined up the crayons that Sam had next to the crayons that Todd had, and we matched them up 1 to 1, which is what we're supposed to do when we're comparing. When I did that, I made sure I didn't leave any out, and all the extras are on the end. I had 4 left over without a match. I took 12, which is what Sam had, and subtracted 8, which is what Tom had, which left me with 4. My answer matches my picture, and it matches the fact that Sam had more than Todd. And because my answer isn't 12 or 8, I'm pretty sure I did the right thing. Did your self-talk sound like my self-talk? I hope so. Good job. I know that self-talk isn't something that there are exact steps for. It's something you really have to practice and learn, which is why I encourage you to watch both of my videos on self-talk as many times as you need to be sure you understand the concept. Also, go through the practice quiz, which gives you a really good opportunity to talk through math on your own. And some of them are wrong, so you're going to have to catch the mistake, which is excellent practice with self-talk. Go ahead and go to the practice quiz now, or rewatch this video as many times as you need it. Good luck!